Hello and good evening and welcome to Faultlines here on Pakistan TV. My name is NAILA SHUJA. Now, today we are turning our focus to a breaking development that is basically underscoring Pakistan's long-standing concerns, and that is the mysterious killing of Gul Rahman, alias Ustad Murid, in Afghanistan's Helmand province. That being said, Ustad Murid was no ordinary militant. He was the operational commander and the trainer of the so-called Fitna al-Hindustan Majid Brigade, and the group behind some of the most deadliest attacks in Pakistan, from 2018's Chinese consulate attack in Karachi to the Gwadar PC assault in 2019 and the Confucius Institute suicide bombing in 2022, as well as the Pakistan Stock Exchange attack in 2020. His fingers are everywhere. Now, Pakistan's security agencies have basically long warned that Afghan soil was being used to sponsor terrorism against Pakistan, often without outside backing. With the United States already designating the Majid Brigade as a terrorist outfit, Pakistan and China pushing for its inclusion in the UN terror list, his death has raised serious concerns and questions about the cross-border militancy, regional instability, and accountability. So today we're going to be primarily focusing on Pakistan's sacrifices and threats, Afghanistan's complicity, and the regional and global response. That being said, we did see the DG ISPR who had a few words to say about India's involvement in Afghanistan. Let's have a look.
I think first, I think the correct term is not insurgent. It's terrorist. So there's no insurgency in Pakistan, whether it's in Balochistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. It's pure terrorism, and we have no doubt in our minds in Pakistan that each and every incident of terrorism that happens in Pakistan, behind that is Indian support and its abetment. So we have absolutely no doubt in it. You talk about the evidence. So this is one dossier that was given in 2001. Then there's a dossier that was given in 2003 to United Nations. Then there is the arrest of the Kulbhushan Yadav. Then this is a serving Indian naval officer who was involved in terrorism inside Pakistan. I will bring it into 2025. So it's a continuous, it's happening. In 2005 again a dossier was given. So Pakistan has been giving all these dossiers, and each dossier is full of the evidence to the international community, and in Sharm el-Sheikh it was handed over to the Indian Prime Minister at that time. I'll give you some numbers. Since January 2025, there have been 1,016 terrorists have been killed by Pakistan. We have suffered 762 shahadats, martyrs. Out of this, near to 300 are civilians. We have been carrying out, during this calendar year, we have carried out so far 47,900 intelligence-based operations. So this comes to approximately 190 intelligence-based operations per day.
Absolutely. Multiple evidences and multiple dossiers are being provided by Pakistan to the international community regarding the counterterrorism measures and the terrorist attacks that have taken place in Pakistan. But Pakistan is extremely resilient. It is a resilient nation. And that being said, I would love to welcome our first guest for today, who is Air Vice Marshal retired IJAZ MALIK, senior analyst. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us here on Faultlines. Now, Mr. Malik, understanding the background of the situation, you know, the Jaffar Express attack back in July 2024 was, one of the most brutal assaults that left basically 17 passengers dead and dozens injured, most ordinary Pakistans who were basically traveling on the Eid holidays. Now, understanding the situation at hand, the killing of Ustad Murid is directly tied to Pakistan's demand for justice for the victims of Jaffar Express tragedy. Do you think so?
Exactly, and I would just like to give a comment before I, further dwell on, answers to your question. My comment is about what you just, put on air, the remarks of DG ISPR, and he is very rightly said that it's not an insurgency in any form or manifestation. But the narrative of insurgency is being created and nurtured by India and Indian media, and of course, the social media that they sponsor world over. Obviously, there is a difference between the format and the pattern of terrorism in KP or erstwhile FATA areas and Balochistan. In KP, the Fitnatul Khawarij or TTP, they started their operation and they started their campaign in the garb of their own brand of Islamization, because they knew that this particular sentiment of people residing in our KP area, it's very appealing to them. So they projected themselves as if they want to implement a certain form of Islamic law or Sharia in initially in Malakand agency, and then the rest is the history that we know. But in case of Balochistan, the narrative was built that there is a massive and ever-growing sense of deprivation among the Baloch populace, and particularly the unemployed youth. And that was the narrative which was built. And then the terrorists were trained in the form of BLA or Majid Brigade and certain other factions by RAW, and even the routes then via Iran were also used by RAW and RAW sponsored trainers. And Commander Kulbhushan Yadav is another living example of that network. So they have tried to create that fault line in Balochistan just to have an appeal to masses. So this is different. You see, these people in KP, they would have that attire, those of religious people, and they will try to portray themselves as a Muslim, whereas none of their act it ever come very even close to the teaching of any sect in Islam. Islam is a very tolerant religion. Whereas on the other hand, the BLA or Majid Brigade, you will see them in military fatigues. You will see them, portraying themselves as heroes of an insurgency, which is a very incorrect, I would say, term to be used for them. So in commonality, both are different pattern and formats of Indian-sponsored, cross-border, state-sponsored terrorism. So that is the exact situation on ground. As regard this high-value target, which has been killed in Afghanistan, there is no denying the fact that the surge in TTP operation across Pakistan has come after the regime change in Kabul. After Taliban interim regime was in Kabul, so that is where they found a refuge, and they are doing such acts day in and day out in all over Pakistan, in our tribal areas as well as in the settled area. So this is the situation, and Pakistan has shown its resolve that both at political leadership as well as our top military leadership, that we would pursue these targets and these militants, even across border, and we are, legally and as per international law and a charter of United Nations, we are permitted to have a hot pursuit against any such targets.
Mr. Malik, understanding this, you mentioned Pakistan's resolve. Now, given the fact that, this Afghan-based killing of Murid, does it prove that Pakistan's main challenges lie outside of the border?
Yes. If we just go back to history, after APS incidents, once we launched a massive campaign in the form of Operation Zarbeas and Radul Fasad, then in a very short time, these terrorist networks in Pakistan, they were dismantled. Many of those, their leaders as well as their operators, they were killed. Some went underground, and then their top leadership, they fled into the areas of Afghanistan like Nangarhar and other adjoining areas to our northern areas. So the epicenter of all terrorist activities inside Pakistan lies in Afghanistan. There is no, other source, and of course, uh, the Afghan government, despite their commitment at Doha Accord before the extrication of American forces from Afghanistan, they gave a commitment to the world that they would not let their soil to be used against any neighboring country. But those were just words, but their action obviously they significantly show that Afghanistan is harboring such terrorists, and whether they admit that or not, they have given them a tacit approval to operate freely from Afghanistan. And India has a free hand because of their long association with networks in
Absolutely.
Afghanistan.
Mr.
So
Malik, that's actually something that I would like to touch upon. Understanding the situation at hand, India's media is portraying, his death in a completely different way and trying to spin the narrative of sorts and creating this propaganda. Is the international community actually buying this narrative?
unfortunately, after this surge operations started, this surge terrorist operation in Pakistan started, that was the time when there were other issues also on the world horizon, like the Ukraine war was in the European theater, and Middle East theater had Gaza crisis coming up. And at that time, the international community and the powers that we, particularly United States, they were not really concerned about this region. Afghanistan was no more on their card, at least temporarily. So that was the time where India found a vacuum, and they tried to project their narrative about blaming Pakistan for certain acts. Most of those were even false flag operation within India. But after Pahalgam and the operation Bunyanul Marsus, the situation has changed. Now, the world sees India, India's true face. That India is one state which harbor terrorism, which exports terrorism. So now the world has that recognition, and now the world listens to Pakistan's, diplomatic effort, our narratives. So I think this is a high time that we must avail this opportunity, which has been God gifted to us after a lot of effort by our valiant armed forces, the resolve of the nation in May, June this year, where we have
Absolutely.
defeated India. And now the world is looking towards Pakistan as a
Yes.
peace stabilizer of the region. So if we
Absolutely.
are the
Ve-
stabilizer, if we are the
Absolutely.
stabilizer, then
Mr. Malik, thank you so much. Again, your words have been extremely insightful. Air Vice Marshal retired IJAZ Malik, senior analyst, was speaking to Faultlines here on Pakistan TV, and he was just, reassuring the fact that, India, the world's response has been very evident that India is harboring and is providing these terrorists to the entire world, and especially it's terrorism against Pakistan. But that being said, stay with us. We're going to go for a short break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Faultlines here on Pakistan TV. I'm NAILA SHUJA. Now, again, our conversation was basically regarding the recent breaking development that underscored Pakistan's long-standing concerns, which was the mysterious killing of Gul Rahman alias Ustad Murid in Afghanistan's Helmand province. Now, for more, we're joined by Brigadier retired RAASHID WALI JANJUA, defense analyst. Thank you so much for joining us here on Faultlines. And now, Brigadier, it is important to understand the prevalent situation at hand. That being said, I want to switch over to the allegations of foreign influence just a tad bit. Understanding that reports suggest that Indian-linked proxies exist within the Taliban structure itself, right? Focusing on that, to what extent are these claims of the foreign intelligence influence within Afghan Taliban's ranks substantiated? And furthermore, what are the strategic risks that this poses to regional stability as well as Pakistan's security interests?
These are not mere allegations. These are the facts. Fitnatul Hindustan operating in Balochistan is being directly supported by India, and they have made no bones about that. During the Jaffar Express attack, the communication intercepts clearly pointed out that those who are masterminding and those who are perpetrating these beastly acts, they were in communication. So we have proofs of their financial contacts and their training contacts. There are movies that are made for them in India, and those telltale signs of the doctored movies clearly indicate that these are being supported as proxies by India. Regarding Fitnatul Khawarij, they are being supported, masterminded through Afghanistan. There's a proxy network of support where they are given complete financial aid, and they are also given secure sanctuaries. They are being given arms, and Indians themselves, they have no qualms about even denying those allegations. So we all know very well that where the apron strings of these terrorist entities are being moved from. And it is now the responsibility of Pakistan's security apparatus to completely eliminate the last vestiges of this menace. And to their credit, they are doing a yeoman service. They are laying down lives daily. And it's a very tough battle, gray zone battle, in which friends and foes are indistinguishable. These terrorists, they cross the Afghan border and secure refuge amongst the population, and taking any action against the population entails risks of collateral damage. And if a large-scale operation is carried out, then the impact of displacement in the shape of internally displaced persons, loss of livelihoods, that also rankles with the population, and they have got memories of the past operations. But now I think this intelligence-based operation approach is working, and there's a need to upscale this. And if there is a requirement in future, full-scale operation might also be launched to eliminate whatever secure bases they have managed to secure. And even across the frontier, Afghan interim government has been sensitized many a times. And if they don't respond, I think we reserve the right to go and take action. And there are so many ways of doing so. We have seen that the Baloch Liberation Army Majid Brigade's head, Rahman Gul, alias Murid, he was eliminated probably in an internecine conflict inside Afghanistan. But that shows that there is no space that would be left completely to these terrorists, and they would be chased even if needed across the frontier as well.
Absolutely. Brigadier Rashid, we know that China and Pakistan, this relationship that we have with China is ironclad, it's strong, it is based on this mutual, mutual assurance that, we are iron brothers hand in hand. That being said, we've raised, both Pakistan and China have raised concerns about, the terrorism emanating from Afghanistan at the United Nations. Now, that being said, do we think, and can Beijing and Islamabad now in a way pressure Kabul to take into accountability over, Murid's network?
Of course, the pressure would be mounted. Pressure is already being mounted. Pakistan has moved this in UN also. And America has responded favorably by declaring Mujahid Brigade as one of the terrorist entities. Earlier on, BLA was declared a terrorist entity, but Mujahid Brigade was outside that net. Now that has also been added. TTP is already part of that terrorist entity label. And now it is up to us how we go to UN fora and muster enough diplomatic support to get those sanctions as per the UN Security Council monitoring sanctions committee to impose those punitive sanctions as per the relevant UN resolutions like 1373 and 1267.
Absolutely. Now, furthermore, understanding, the situation. We recently, in the start of the show, we had the DGISPR's snippet where he was mentioning, that Pakistan has lost over a great deal of lives to the terrorism here in Pakistan. But at the same time, that it's a great financial cost that Pakistan has had to face trying to counter this terrorism that was happening in Pakistan. But that being said, do international actors, or did the international actors really ignore Pakistan's immense sacrifices regarding this counterterrorism efforts? And if so, why? Was it based on the Indian propaganda that was there, or what was the reason?
I think it's the geopolitics and the priorities of the global actors. They have their other priorities. They are engrossed in probably South China, East China, their Indo-Pacific joust for containing China, Middle East, Ukraine. So this is a sideshow for them. But there is some cooperation on counter-terrorism front between United States and Pakistan. United States is concerned that Afghanistan does not lapse and there is no recrudescence of violence and it doesn't become a hatchery of terrorism. They have also evinced desire to get back Bagram as a military base, which all betokens their interest to see Afghanistan free of those non-state actors. So Pakistan should leverage that, and Pakistan already is in touch with them. And counter-terrorism cooperation, early warning, and joint operations. So all sorts of options are on the table. But when it comes to fighting this scourge, I think it is our own responsibility. And Pakistan would have diplomatic support of the allies. And there are regional countries, of course, China, Russia, Iran, Central Asian states. We should make a good diplomatic front against the terrorist entities and pressurize Afghan interim government to lean on those entities and exercise their control, which they profess that they have, but in practical terms, they just look the other way. And if it comes to the last resort, so Pakistan reserves all kinetic and non-kinetic options to go for those secure bases even across the Pak-Afghan border. And inside your own territory, of course, we have to gel as a whole of the government and the whole of the nation in this battle against this scourge of terrorism. And I think our armed forces, they are doing their best. There's a need that the civil administration, police, judiciary, and the rest of the nation needs to stand by the armed forces to fight this menace. Because this is something that is multidimensional. Only one kinetic dimension may not be enough to extinguish the flames of this militancy.
Brigadier Rashid, understanding this, issue, the recent shift in the international media where India has been taken under the magnifying glass a little bit, being viewed very closely now. What does this event, the death of Murid, mean for India now?
You see, there's an age-old maxim, and the realists like Mearsheimer tell us that geopolitical mistakes lead to wars. India has resorted to bad geopolitics in its hubris, haughtiness, and lack of empathy for the peace cause. They are driven by Hindutva agenda and they made costly mistakes. They have lost their diplomatic capital and they've got that humiliating setback in the shape of 700 high-tech aircrafts lost, S-400 damaged, a lot of military installations damaged. So they are now nursing their wounds and they are looking for making up for that. And they are also trying to gain the electoral dividends out of ratcheting the new tensions. As the elections approach nearer in November, there would be a danger that they would ratchet up the tensions, but that is a very myopic approach. And now with Pak-Saudi Defense Pact, I think in their cost-benefit calculus, they should think twice before going for any such adventurism, and they should see the light of reason and smoke the peace pipe with Pakistan.
Brigadier Rashid, just regarding this matter, again, once more, the strategic implications for Pakistan if the TTP is operating with greater autonomy from Afghanistan's interim government, and how should Pakistan recalibrate its counterterrorism and diplomatic strategies, given this evolving threat?
TTP is operating with complete impunity. Let's not mince our words. Afghan interim government, despite our continual positive engagement, has failed, and all those diplomatic overtures and engagements have withered on the vine of Afghan interim government's obduracy. Having said that, the TTP uh, has fractures, inner cleavages, it has its weaknesses, and it doesn't have the support of population inside Pakistan's territory. So Pakistan's armed forces and the security apparatus must leverage these advantages to snuff out their militancy, and we should not give any space. The need of the hour is to forge political unity amongst ourselves, and let's not present a image of a divided house, so that all our diplomatic, kinetic, and administrative efforts, those gel together.
Absolutely. Just previously before you joined, we had, Air Vice Marshal retired IJAZ Malik, who basically, edified that, Pakistan is dealing with the external forces very proactively. And that being said, I wanted to ask you this as well, that, does the Afghan-based killing of Murid prove that Pakistan's main challenge is, outside of its borders?
It indeed is. As long as Afghanistan is destabilized, as long as it is being governed by an ideologically driven entity, which sees non-state actors like ISKP, Al-Qaeda, and TTP as its ideological kinsmen, we have a problem. But then we have no option but to remain continually engaged on diplomatic front with them. We have no option but to keep on exerting multilateral and the regional actors pressure, diplomatic pressure upon Afghan interim government. We have no option but to leverage our trade linkages and use those trade leverages over Afghan government to make them see the light of reason. And we should not hope that there would be a sea change in the Afghan interim government's attitude. The problems are there, but we all know that there are options like Turkish model in Syria. Hot pursuit options are there, and there are so many options that we can utilize in classical intelligence mode to go for those TTP terrorists that go and seek refuge across the border. This killing of Rahman, a BLA terrorist, probably by his own internal enemies. But for those who understand these tactics, there's a message for that, that wherever these terrorists go, those would not be left unscathed.
Absolutely. Brigadier Retired Rashid WALI, JANJUA defense analyst, thank you so much for speaking to Faultlines here on Pakistan TV. Now, viewers, Pakistan is, continuously mourning the martyrs, and it's continuously fighting the terrorism, right? And the killing of Ustad Murid in Afghanistan once again lays the bare, uncomfortable truth that, sadly, our neighbor soil remains the launch pad for terror against Pakistan. Now, that being said, the question before the international community is primarily that that no longer whether Pakistan is a victim, it's whether Afghanistan will be held accountable and whether those who enable these terrorist organizations against CPEC and Pakistan civilians will face swift justice. That was today's conversation here at Faultlines on Pakistan TV. This is NAILA SHUJA. Have a good one.